Welcome to the Marketing Mentor Podcast with Elise Benin, founder of marketing-mentor.com and author of 7 books, including The Creative Professional's Guide to Money. Since 2008, Elise has been interviewing her clients and other successful professional creatives who are doing what it takes to stop the feast or famine syndrome, get better clients, and command the fees they deserve, and sharing the nuts and bolts of what they've learned so you can do it too. You can find more at marketing-mentor.com. And now, here's Elise Benin.
This is the next in the Experienced Newbie series about reinventing yourself as a creative professional. We're focusing in these podcasts on the logistical and practical issues of reinvention, but especially also on the emotional and psychological issues, because I've come across so many people for whom any confidence they developed in the previous career for some reason doesn't carry over into the new one. Now, in this podcast, I chatted with London-based project manager turned photographer, JC Candanedo, who never really felt at home in his project management career. And so finally, after 20 years, decided it was time to do something he really cared about. We got into some details also about how he demonstrates the value he brings from his past and how that makes him feel more confident to go out and get the clients. He also talked about exactly how he markets his services and the niches that he works in. So listen and then try it for yourself. Hello, JC. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Liz. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Please introduce yourself.
Well, my name is JC Candanedo. I'm a London-based commercial photographer, and I work mostly in portraiture, be it corporate, fashion, headshots, etc.
And how long have you been doing that?
I've been shooting for 4 years now.
And can I ask how old you are?
Almost 42.
Okay, so you were obviously doing something else before those 4 years. And the reason we're talking today, let me just set it up for the listeners, is that I have a new series which involves podcasts and blog posts and who knows what else, called Experienced Newbie. And this was initiated by a client of mine, actually, who I hadn't talked to in a while. She had been off doing her own agency, Lisa Mullis, for a while. And now she's in the middle of a mid-career makeover. And she's transitioning to start another firm or agency or business. She hasn't quite decided what. And so we did the first podcast, and I do think there are lots of people out there making these mid-career shifts, like reinventing themselves later than they ever thought they would. And so I wanted to just follow people in their process so that you don't feel so alone and kind of share the process. So Lisa has done that, and then you heard her podcast and you responded very strongly to it. So tell me why, and also integrate into that, what you reinvented from.
Well, when I listened to Lisa's podcast, I felt completely related. I know exactly what she was going through or what she is going through. After 4 years, I don't feel it as much, but at the beginning, I really felt like that. Like I was this person with all this experience. I used to be an IT project manager, and I did that for almost 20 years. And all of a sudden, I was almost 40, and I was like the 40-year-old intern, like starting from scratch. And it's really hard. It's really hard. You have to have a lot of motivation, and you have to be really focused, and you really have to have a lot of self-confidence to start from scratch at a certain age, especially when you look around and everyone that's at the same level that you are at the moment it's either 10 or 15 years younger than you are, and it's a bit scary. So when I listened to a podcast, I completely understood where she was coming from, and she was doing making a shift inside the same industry for me, and I bet that for many other people, I was changing industry, so that made it even harder.
And were you forced to reinvent yourself, or was that something you took the lead or the leap on yourself, or maybe a combination of both?
I don't feel that I was forced. I didn't lose my job, or it wasn't the recession or anything. I just never felt like I belonged to my previous industry. I started out really young when I was 17. I didn't know what to do with my life, so you choose whatever comes easier to you at the moment, and that defines what you're going to do for not maybe the rest of your life, but for a long time. But after 20 years, I was 37 years old. I really felt uncomfortable doing what I was doing. I didn't like it anymore. I didn't feel that it was me. I had changed so much while I was growing up, and I was doing a very technical job, and I thought that I was more a creative person. And I just didn't see myself doing that for the next 50 years. So I decided that I needed to do something about it, and that's when I made the decision to change careers.
And so you decided to become a photographer. And had you been doing photography on the side while you were an IT project manager, or was it a hobby, or was it something you were doing seriously, or did you just start right then?
I've always done photography. I've always loved photography. So I would be the friend who everyone knew would have the camera during the trip or party. So everyone expected me to take photos. That's something that I've always liked. But just as a hobby, I never really thought that I would pursue it as a career. The last few years of my previous career, I started taking it more seriously. I studied it formally, and I was doing things on the side, not for money, but just like my own personal projects. So when I finally took the leap, I was already familiar with photography.
And you had a portfolio, it sounds like.
I didn't. I had like personal projects, but nothing that I could show to clients at the moment. No, I had to start from scratch.
And we've talked before, and you are very focused and specialized on a particular niche, which is fashion, I believe. So, and portraiture, you said. So talk about how you chose that also, because usually it's a relatively gradual process, but it sounds to me like it wasn't so slow for you, or maybe you couldn't afford for it to be that slow.
Well, it was in a way, maybe because I had started shooting my own personal projects before deciding that I would do this for a living. But it took me a while. It took me a while to discover exactly what I wanted to shoot. At the beginning, I tried everything. I tried travel. I tried street photography, food photography. I think that I wasn't very good at any of it. And just shooting people and portraits. That's what I really liked. And in my previous industry, I worked in a fashion company. So I kind of mixed both things. And that's why I decided to do fashion. It made sense.
Okay, so that's interesting, because I know that one of the challenges that Lisa Mullis is facing, and one of the things I'm trying to highlight in this Experience Newbie series, is how do you integrate your years, and sometimes years, of experience and even expertise into something that is completely new in your case. And it sounds like one strategy you used is to basically stay in the same industry, which you know and has value, or you could demonstrate the value. How did you work with that or see that?
Most definitely. I completely agree with you. And I think that it was really smart for me to focus on fashion, because it's an industry that I more or less understood. I was working inside a big brand from Barcelona. So I understood the cycles. I knew how the company worked. I knew more or less how the industry, how to move inside the industry. So definitely, I think that influenced my decision to do fashion. Also, since I was a project manager, and even though I didn't directly work in the main core of the business in that fashion company, I was doing IT project management. So all the skills from project management were fully transferable to what I'm doing right now, because when you have to work with clients on a shoot, you have to most of the times produce a shoot, and that is basically doing a project. So that was also some skills that I could transfer from what I was doing before. I've often thought that something else that I can take from my previous career and bring into this new one is that I worked for so many years in corporate. So the corporate world is something that I also understand very well. And if I have a client who commissions me to shoot portraits, like corporate portraits, I know how to behave. I know what to expect. I know how things work inside a corporation. So that's something that also works in my favor. And the fact that I've been working in teams with people for so long, it's also that I know the skill that I can take advantage of, the being able to work with people.
And there are two sides to what you're talking about from my point of view. There's knowing what experience you have and can bring to the table that will help you, and that I assume makes you feel more confident about going out there and getting the work. And then there's getting the work, promoting yourself, which I want to talk about, but also talking about those things that make you feel more confident that you bring from your past. Do those things have value to your clients, or do you just know them? And if they do have value, how do you talk about them or demonstrate them or communicate them so that the client can choose the one with experience over the one who's 15 years younger that doesn't have all of that, let's say, corporate experience?
That's very interesting the way you're mentioning it, because at the beginning I didn't think about it. I thought that even though I more or less knew how the industry worked, I didn't think that any of the skills that I was bringing from my previous career would help me in this one, as I thought that I was venturing into this completely new world, which was all creative and nothing to do with structure and with the technical side of where I was coming from. So at the very beginning, I didn't really take advantage of any of this. It was only until I started working with other people, getting to know people, seeing how others work, because as a photographer, you have to assist a lot of photographers at the very beginning. So you more or less realize, gee, so these people, they're having problems, or they're struggling on this side, and this is something that I do very well, right? So by getting to know the people in the industry better, I started realizing things that I could bring to the table, as you said, when dealing with clients. So whenever I have to talk to a new client, or even the clients that I usually work with, I always talk about my past. I always tell my story. I think that it's an interesting story that someone at 40 decides to start all over again, right? And I think people see that as someone who's brave and someone who is knows what they want and follows through, and that brings a lot of confidence to clients. And also the fact that they know that I've been managing projects for so long gives them the confidence that I'm someone that they can rely on.
Beautiful. And so let's talk about, this is kind of a two-part question. How you promote yourself, because I know you have a blog, but it's not exactly a promotional blog, but it seems to be really helping in your marketing. And choosing photography. I mean, photography has changed so much, and so many people think they can take their own pictures. So it's not a no-brainer when it comes to reinventing yourself. So can you answer those two parts of the question kind of in the same breath? Do you see how they're connected?
More or less. So the marketing side, that's something that you and I have spoken about in the past, because I follow more or less your directions. I do a lot of social media. Like for me, my main marketing it goes into social media. So I do like an hour a day where I post on different outlets. Obviously, as a photographer, you have to use Instagram. I use Facebook. I use Twitter. I use LinkedIn also, because I have clients who are production companies, and they're mostly on LinkedIn. Every week, every Wednesday, I write on my blog. As you said, it's not a blog that I write to fully promote myself, but it has worked out perfectly, because that's, in the end, that's what it's doing, is promoting myself. I speak about the things that I go through since I started the business, everything that I've learned, all my experiences, things that I like about the industry, things that I don't like, things that I've done to help change the things that I don't like. I've spoken about my marketing strategy, etc. So I think that the blog, it started out as something that I decided to write for myself, just to tell myself how I was growing inside this new career, and it ended up being like a resource for other people who were going through the same things that I was going at the very beginning. And speaking of people who are venturing into new careers, especially if they're venturing into photography, I found that photography has nothing to do with the technicalities of photography itself. It's not about taking a camera and just pointing and shooting. And not even if you know, like, to the very last piece of the equipment, how it works. That's not the business of photography. The business of photography, as the word says, is a business, and you need to know about business, about clients, about invoicing, about taxes. So it's so much more. People think that anyone can be a photographer, and I completely disagree. Anyone can take a photo, but not everyone can work as a professional photographer and have a business in this industry.
And so how do you find the high quality clients who value that and will pay for it? And especially because you're based in London, what is the market like there?
I guess it's very similar everywhere. Like it's always really hard because the competition, when you live in cities like London or New York or Paris, where there's so many photographers, the competition is really hard. You definitely need to find what is your niche, and that is something that I'm working on, because even inside fashion, you need to find fashion and portraiture. You need to find your niche because there's so many people doing it. Finding the clients, it's really hard. You have to knock on so many doors, and I don't know. I guess it's not very different to what happens in cities like New York, where you live in.
And besides the social media, do you do a lot of networking? Do you go out? Is that where the people are that you need to meet? Is it on LinkedIn?
I've done a lot of networking, and I'm not doing it so often now because I'm quite busy. But in the past, I really tried to, like, at least once a month, go to a networking event. I've met clients through networking events. Definitely, I've met clients through social media who have contacted me, and they wanted me to shoot them. I've met clients through referrals. Usually, I work with a lot of modeling agencies, and when a client asks them if they know a photographer, some of them refer them to me. So there's many ways that you can get clients from various sources.
But it seems to me that your marketing tools definitely connect the dots, which is one of the ways I've been talking about marketing lately. And I know that I receive your blog via email, but do you also do an email newsletter or some kind of e-blast?
I do every season. At the beginning of every season, I do a mailing that I send to production companies, I send to brands, I send to photo editors, photo buyers, marketing agencies, where I explain what I've been doing in the previous season, and if I have any project for the new season, I always explain it there. And I also have a link there to my blog. So if someone is interested, they can go to my blog there too.
Excellent. All right. I have one more question, and then I want you to give whatever advice you would to someone who is in the process of reinventing themselves and, something that you learned. But my question is, you said that even within fashion and portraiture, you're finding that that's not narrow enough of a niche. So what are you considering as you keep niching down?
At the moment, I'm considering changing my website, my domain. No, I'm going to keep what I have right now, but I'm going to do one parallel where I can diversify and be more specific about what I do. Because right now, it appears, or it seems that I'm working in a niche, but I'm not. Like, there's so many things that you can do inside what goes under portraiture or what goes under fashion that at times I feel like people really don't know what I do. So now I'm going to diversify, and I'm going to create another website that is, thank you for having me, Liz, portraiture work. So I can say, okay, so I shoot portraits, and I can shoot your corporate work, and I can shoot your newborn or your maternity photos, or your wedding, not wedding, but like engagement photos. Or your regular portrait, and then separate that from the fashion portraiture that I do. So that is something that I'm working on at the moment.
I see. So it's too confusing for people in one or the other market to see both on your website. You're saying it's not clear enough.
Yeah, I find that it's not clear enough. Even though I see it as very related, like portraiture, fashion portraiture, it's more or less the same type of job. The clients get super confused. They don't understand what one thing has to do with the other. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so what's your best piece of advice, JC?
Well, for someone who is reinventing themselves, no matter the age that they do it, when they go into the new industry, doesn't matter whichever industry it is, I just have to say that you have to be super confident, have a clear goal in your head. This is where I want to be. And don't listen to anyone. Just listen to yourself and to what you want, and learn a lot about business. Because I found that's something that I really struggled with at the beginning, not understanding the business side. So that would be my advice.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, JC. And tell people where they can find your website and your blog and anything else you want them to see.
Yes. So as I said, my name is JC Candanedo. I work under the brand Grey Pistachio. You can see my work at www.greypistachio.com. And you can see my blog there as well, and any of my social media at Grey Pistachio.
And that's Grey, Grey?
That is correct.
Okay, good. All right. Thanks again, JC. And we will talk to you again soon.
Thank you for having me, Liz.
Thanks for listening. Now go try out what you've learned. If you like what you hear, you can go to marketing-mentor.com and sign up for Elise's quick tips from Marketing Mentor and her free 30-minute mentoring session to get your burning questions answered. Check out what's on sale in the Marketing Mentor shop, like the Pick a Niche Kit, proposal bundles for designers and copywriters, and the 30 Minutes a Day marketing plan. Elise is also the host of the How Design Live podcast, a programming partner for How Design Live, the largest design conference, and you can learn all about that at howdesignlive.com. Until next time.